In today's video, we discuss if bulking on a high-protein diet limits fat gain and is overall healthier.
All by myself.
What's going on, guys? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com coming back on Tuesday. Didn't get a video out yesterday, but I had a pretty good reason. Spent 6 days on the West Coast, driving, working, getting crap done, and that time difference really jacked me up. And you know what? I hadn't been home for a week. I got home. It's Sunday. I got in my door at 3 a.m. on Sunday. And I hadn't seen my son, hadn't seen my wife in 6 days. So Monday was get some work done, but mostly get caught up with family and get back into the groove here. And lots of good things going on. My garage is finished. It is done. Now we just have to get moved into it. So that's going to be a process over the next week or so to get all this stuff that I do into that garage. And since today is the 1st, Lauren Conlon is coming over and we are going to record our podcast and get it live today. Our goal going forward is going to be 2 podcasts a month, the 1st and the 15th. And that's it. That's all I got to talk about right now. The trip out west was fantastic. Got to spend time with some amazing people. Got to go see the West Coast. We did a little hiking to the Hollywood sign. We, if you didn't follow the videos that I put out, I had Chad Nutter with me. As you guys know, I love me some Chad Nutter videos. I mean, just waking up and watching what he's put together just gets me excited. But yeah, so we kind of documented all that stuff. Got to hang out with Emily Hayden, who is recovering from a surgery. And she's getting ready to go on a European tour. Very busy girl. And then we drove, that's right, to Las Vegas for the USA Championships. And while there, one of Team Pro Physique's very own became an IFBB Pro, winning her bikini class. So congratulations to Jasmine Bystricky. And I had another client at her first national show get top 3, so miss a pro card by a spot. And overall, the experience was great. I loved getting to see all 5 of my girls, and Lauren had a girl there as well. So we had a big presence, 6 clients, me and Lauren. It just felt great to come to a national show and actually have a presence. You know, it's been growing this year, our ability to come to these national shows and bring some high-level athletes and make some noise. And it's just fun to spend time with them, to be there for them. You know, I can't be at all the shows, but I'm definitely making more of an effort to do more shows and be at more. This weekend in Tampa is the Tim Gardner IFBB Tampa Pro, and there's an amateur show associated with that, so I'll be there with some clients as well. So yeah, it's about, we're just doing more, being more, and coaching more. And so with that, the podcast coming out later today will probably have a lot to do with our trip and some discussions we had with the girls about prep to keep it relevant. But today's video is about MASS. For those that aren't familiar with MASS, it's the Monthly Application and Strength Sport. It is put out by 3 outstanding individuals who I hold in the highest regard. They are driving the evidence-based approach. They very much have had an impact on how I coach very directly, because Dr. Michael Zordos out of Florida Atlantic University is doing all this research on daily undulating periodization, has basically changed the way a lot of people lift because of that. Then you've got Eric Helms, soon to be PhD, who is in New Zealand at the University of Auckland doing amazing research as well, and who himself is a very good coach and who I've spent some time with. And because of him, I've changed some of my philosophies, and we've known each other for probably going on a decade now, and he's just someone I've always very much respected. He's always looking for that next thing like myself. And then you've got Greg Knuckles, who is an all-around badass, strong guy, smart guy. And you combine those 3, and they're putting out a monthly subscription-based information about research that's relevant to what I do, to what we do as coaches, to those of us that are interested. They look at research, they interpret it, and they give you all the information, and they make it so nice and digestible. So we're going to talk about one of those articles today because the new month is out. I also have a link below. If you click the link below and subscribe, it's an affiliate link for me, which sounds nice. Yay, I get lots of money, right? Well, I have made some money off of it. But what I've decided to do with that money is donate it, because those guys have done all the work. They've done all the research. They put in all the effort to this. So I don't really feel like I should earn money by you clicking a link, because it's something that, you guys are going to benefit from, and they should benefit from it. So what I've decided to do is all that affiliate link money is going to go here. The University of South Florida has a fantastic exercise science program run by Dr. Bill Campbell. They're turning out some great students, like Lauren Conlon, like Stephen Bogrand, my coach. And I'm going to be taking some classes there. I may even try to get into the grad program here pretty soon. So overall, I just want to give back to the exercise science community. Dr. Campbell's getting ready to do some research. He's going to be doing some studies on refeeds in the near future. And I think it'll be cool to just be a part of that. Luckily, we're not all geographically able to be near stuff that's going on like that. I am very fortunate to live in Tampa and have that. So now, let's get into the question. Bulking. First of all, let's define what bulking is, just in case there's someone out there that doesn't know. Bulking means over-consuming calories with the goal of putting on muscle. Bulking is very popular for men, not very popular for women, but the goal is the same. Get in the gym, lift some heavy weights, consume a ton of food, rest, repeat, put muscle on. Now the problem with bulking in most cases is the idea that during this bulking process you will put on excess amounts of body fat. Meaning, you'll gain 15, 20 pounds, but you might gain 17, 18 pounds of fat to gain that 1 or 2 pounds of muscle, which is not ideal. So I, as a coach, for those that don't know, I do more controlled building. I don't really call it a bulk. I call it whatever you want to call it, reverse dieting, metabolic building, because putting on muscle, even for beginners, is a relatively slow process when compared to putting on body fat, which can be a very quick process. Our bodies can store fat very quickly. The process of growing your muscle fibers is not a quick process, right? Muscle protein synthesis takes time. So what we're talking about here is bulking. And what I found interesting in this month's issue of Mass was that Eric discusses bulking on a high protein diet. And they had 2 control groups. They had one group that was under 1.7 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, and they had one group that was over 3.1 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, what does that mean in pounds for those of us that are not living in Australia or England? Basically, the group that was low, the 1.7 grams, they were consuming 0.77 grams of protein per pound. Okay, so I compared it to a 90 kilogram athlete. A 90 kilogram athlete weighs 198 pounds. That person in the first group, the low protein group at 1.7 or under, would be consuming around 155 grams of protein. So 155 grams of protein for a 190 pound person. The high protein group at 3.1 grams per kilogram would be taking in roughly 280 grams of protein. So there's a huge difference here, right? And the age ranges for both groups were pretty similar, and the calorie intake was surprisingly similar, which was not something I was not expecting. I was expecting the high protein group to be taking in less calories for a few reasons. I'll get into that. So what I found very interesting was that the high protein group and the low protein group of this bulking study were consuming very similar calorie profiles. Their training was very similar, the time in the gym and the frequency that they trained with. So these were pretty comparable. And what I found interesting was that, in fact, the group consuming the very high protein, I consider that very high. If you're at 200 pounds, under 200 pounds and taking in 280 grams of protein, I consider that very high. That's about 1.4 grams of protein per pound, which is actually higher than I would prescribe for most athletes. But, some people that really love protein, I might have them there. It just depends on the person, but it's not what I would consider ideal. But that group actually was maintaining a much leaner body composition, around 14% body fat. While the other group, which was around the 155 grams of protein, they were maintaining 20% body fat. So as you can see here, that's a pretty significant. For anyone that's a man and doesn't know the difference between 14 and 20, 14% for me, I have pretty good outline of abs. I've got a little bit of lower back fat, but it's starting to come off. I definitely have vascularity in my limbs. 14% is starting to get to that nice body composition, you know, flatter stomach, you know, I can wear my smaller pants. 20% for me, that is healthy. That is where I have zero abdominal definition, definitely some lower back fat, some chubbing up of the face, definitely wearing double extra large shirts, which this is like an extra large and it's kind of nice fitting. I can no longer wear extra large shirts, you know. For me, it's probably around the 245 pound mark, whereas I'm right now probably around the 12% body fat, maybe 11, and I'm about 219, 220. So that is a significant difference. That 6% of body fat, 14 to 20, represents a completely different look, completely different feel. So it's very significant to me that the high protein group was actually maintaining a leaner body mass. And let me explain why I think that's relevant, because I myself have done the bulking and not really paid too close attention to my protein and just got protein through the sheer force of calories. And I'll tell you why I think it's easier to add some body fat in that. Because if you're making up the calories, where are you going to be making them up? Well, you're going to be making it up with excess carbohydrates and fats. Fats are more easily stored than fat as protein. Protein is also more satiating, right? So the more protein you eat, the fuller you feel. Protein is also more difficult for the body to store as fat than higher fat meals. So if you're having large meals and they're not protein based, which when you're bulking, you know, there would be times where I would drive home from the gym and be like, I'm bulking, let's stop at Taco Bell and get a couple burritos. And don't laugh, this was 20 years ago, back when all I cared about was just eating, because I was a skinny son of a gun. But, you know, I would literally fast food it after I work out rather than not eat. My only goal was eating. So I definitely probably at one point in my life would have fit perfectly into this. So I could have been a case study for both of these groups, because now I very much pay close attention to my protein. I make sure that my protein is above a gram per pound. So at 220 pounds that I am right now, I make sure I'm getting 240, 250 grams of protein a day. And I notice my body composition is just better. I feel better. Every time I eat, I digest better. I don't feel as hungry. And I find that this is probably going to be true for most people, because if you're paying attention to your protein goals for the day, you'll find that it gets a little more difficult to eat a really high calorie diet with high protein, because you feel so full all the time. So you really need to pay attention. You know, it's very easy for me to miss meals when I'm got a little extra body fat on and I'm eating large protein meals. I feel fuller longer. I don't get hungry as quick. Whereas when my meals are more based around, you know, carbs and fats, you know, the hunger can come back quicker. So yeah, this study that Eric talks about, very much I can relate to it on a personal level, on a coaching level as well. And I think, you know, bodybuilders typically go in the gym for very short periods of time, train very intense, but it doesn't burn a lot of calories. You know, there's not a lot of cardiovascular activity. There's not a lot of, you know, most people bulking aren't going to be paying attention to how much cardio they're doing or how much activity. Their only real goal is putting on muscle. They relate that to the scale and to strength. And both of those go up in a high calorie surplus. So sometimes a bodybuilder will say, yeah, the scale's up 10 pounds in the last 3 months, but I've also put 30 pounds on my bench. Yeah. So it's possible to do that without putting on a lot of body fat, but it's probably a little easier to do it while you're putting on body fat. And it's much more acceptable for bros to put on a bunch of body fat, see the scale go up, and call it muscle. Females, on the other hand, when they're bulking, or they're in the period of adding muscle, they most likely, and this comes from my client experience, and if this is different for you, I apologize, but they despise the scale going up. You almost have to convince them that it's acceptable for the scale to go up, because a lot of women, the female variety, associate happiness with a certain number on the scale, and I have to get rid of that, especially when they're looking fantastic, adding calories and training harder and better, that, okay, maybe that number that they have in their head should just be wiped out. Guys don't have that problem. So that's where we can get into the low calorie dieting, that's where we can get into the issue with a lower protein dieting for men, is because they're not really so concerned with protein. Certainly they're putting protein in each meal, but they're not making it the primary all the time. They're not making it the focus. Whereas if you're focusing on getting a lot of protein, and this is certainly would fit into that category, 280 grams of protein. If you split that up throughout the day, let's say you have 5 meals, 280 grams of protein, that's going to be more than 50 grams of protein in each of those meals. That is going to be a very filling meal. I can tell you 50 grams of protein in a single meal is not going to be super easy to get down for most of us. I myself would feel very full eating that much protein. I try to eat about 4 times a day right now. So yeah, I'm getting 60, 65, 70 grams of protein per meal, and I definitely feel full after those meals, and I'm ready to not eat for a few hours. So yeah, I think the study is in line with what I would think. Bulking on a higher protein diet might be better for body composition. It definitely would be better, I think, to have more than a gram per pound. The group that was under a gram per pound, you may not be hitting leucine threshold on a couple of those meals, so that might be an issue. But overall, I completely agree with what this research says. Your protein should be on the higher end. It should be over a gram per pound, especially when bulking, and I find that will help you with your body composition in a period of adding muscle and help you from putting on too much body fat too quickly. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Lauren Conlon's on our way over. We're recording our podcast. For those that aren't familiar, Redefine Healthy Radio launched a couple weeks ago. I'll put the link below to the iTunes. You guys can go click, subscribe, listen to me and Lauren talk. The first episode was just Lauren and I talking about who we are, where we come from, kind of our backgrounds. Now we're going to get into the real meat and potatoes of podcasting and talk about things that matter. I got to get back to work. It's Tuesday. I'm excited to get this video edited, get it out, get you a link to Mass. You guys click subscribe to the Mass publication and start learning. There's some great topics in this week's episode. I'll actually show you the table of contents here. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today, guys. I hope you guys have an awesome week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
By myself.